I was muted. Hello, everybody. Back again. Let me unmute myself. Welcome back. Another day of celebration here with Margot Levat. We are getting ready, leading up to International Podcast Day, which is actually September the 30th, which is Friday. But you know me, I love podcasting, so we're digging in a little bit early. Yesterday, we had a panel discussion, Global Women Behind the Mic. They were women from different parts of the states and the globe. We talked about podcasting while we are females. Very interesting. Replay comes up on Friday. But today we are looking at podcasting while Black. Yes, it comes from let me pull this down a little bit more. It comes from a report that came out in 2021. I think there were 3 different entities that reported on the listenership, how Black people are listening to more podcasts, how women are getting into podcasting, female women, Black women. We are still in the minority with that, but it was a fascinating report. I read through it, listened to it a couple of times, and it just stuck with me. Black people want to hear from Black people. So I thought when it comes to this thing of podcasting and monetization, podcasting as a business, let's bring on 2 experts. So let me hurry up and bring Naghilia Desravines. I'm going to cut the music because I want you to hear everything that this lady has to say. Everything. Let me bring her on. Naghilia Desravines, MBA. She is the founder of WomELLE. And, you know, I wanted to bring her right in before we did any commercials or anything, because in her neck of the woods, there are some thunderstorms. As bad as we need rain here in Southern California, she has thunderstorms. So we hope that the internet holds up and cooperates with us. I just want to say welcome, madam, and thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you, Margot, for having me. I appreciate it. You know, for how long I owe you that conversation?
I know it's been a long time coming, but you know what? I have to let everybody know that WomELLE is an organization dedicated to mentoring business women. You have up under that magazine, up under that umbrella. I'm excited. I just love this kind of thing. Up under that umbrella comes a magazine. Podcast. Yes, you have a directory and a litany of services. You are dedicated to make sure that women, from the idea all the way to scaling, growing, women are able to get their business to the next level. And you meet us, and I say us because you have helped me. You are helping me so very much until it's just cuckoo crazy, you know. And before we go into the questions, I have to let everybody know what a generous person you are. You are the woman who, going off of the word of someone else, what was it, back in maybe 4 years ago, you were having a event in Las Vegas, and somehow, some way, it got to you that I am a panel moderator, and you let me do that for a whole month, and I never forgot that. Never. Girl, I ran out and bought a brand new computer. I wanted everything fresh and ready. But that's what greatness does for everyone. So when we talk about this thing of podcasting is a business, it really, really is. So now you know who Naghilia Desravines, and this woman is rocking an MBA, and she is all up in it. She is the founder of a company that is all about women. So let me dig into the very first question. Since this is leading up to celebrating podcasters, I want to know how well WomELLE even got into the podcasting industry. When you began as a publishing company, you were giving people the digital exposure that they needed. How did you make this change? I should say, how did you put on this addition? Because you didn't drop the magazine. It's smoking hot, folks, but you may add it on podcasting.
Exactly. That's more like a challenge. I think that I took it as a challenge. I know one person that when I talk about podcast is a business, and then I felt like a lot of people was saying that it's not a business. And I wanted to prove one, that podcasting is a business, and then having a podcast, you can make money off of it. And that's how immediately that I said, okay, I'm going to challenge that, and I'm going to start a podcast, and I'm going to make sure that I prove that I can make money by using a podcast. WomELLE can make money by having a podcast. And that's how the podcast started.
A challenge. And when when you talk about the women who have, I mean, it's not like you out begging people to be a part of the podcast. Not at all. They are coming to you. Now you have a process, you have a system in place. I want people to understand that when you're becoming a professional podcaster or you're adding this onto your business, there are things that you have to do. So my next question is you already had the business in place, and so you were able to move into this challenge. For the person that says, okay, I want to be a professional podcaster, I want this to be a part of my business, I want this to be my business, is it wise for them to come in and say, well, so and so is doing it this way, this is their business model? Is there a cookie cutter approach to building out this business model?
Personally, Margot, the first thing I think, if you are not a podcaster already, I think the best thing is to get with someone that can help you start the podcast part of it, because that's actually important. If you don't know how to be a podcaster, I think you need to learn it first. Like what you are doing, you're teaching men and women how to become a podcaster. I think that's the first step. So once you have that, then you need to add it into your business. How am I going to use that podcast to actually either build my business or either use it to make money for the business? So there's people that have a podcast, they do it just for advertising kind of way, another way that to talk about your business, to talk about your products, to talk about your services. Well, with us at WomELLE, we have the podcast. It's not for that. The podcast not only bringing income to WomELLE, which is a different approach that we took with it. So you need to add it to your business plan and understanding that the approach that you are going to take, for everyone, it is different. I would advise not to copy anyone model the way they are doing it, because the way I'm doing it, you shouldn't copy it 100%. Yes, you can kind of take a look at it and see how it's going to work for you, but don't just take it and copy it 100%.
I'm glad you said that, because there's so many people who have do it this way and it's just this way. So it is not cookie cutter. It, you and you have to understand why you're doing it there and what your expectations are. Is that correct?
Exactly. You have to understand why you want to have the podcast in your business in the first place. Am I doing this just to promote the business, or am I doing this to bring income into the business? So it's depending where you want to take it. Then that's where you need to plan it to bring the income into it or
Mm.
to promote your business. Either way.
I heard you speak of a business plan. A lot of people want to run out, buy that mic. They want to just jump on. I'm over here on Apple, everybody. But you spoke of a business plan. And let me show everybody what I have in my hand. When I say this woman has an MBA and she walks the walk and talks the talk, she has a class. And this is her book. You'll see it in the background there. Let me level this out. And you need this because a business starts with structure. Is that correct? Okay.
Exactly. So you cannot just say, I'm going to start a business without having the foundation itself. Just like when you're building a house, the first thing you lay out, you know how your house going to look like. You probably have a drawing of it, however how they called it. And then they start with the foundation of it. So it's the same thing for your business. Don't try to rush into it. And I always say people, well, I can help you make 5K a month, this and month, this and that. It might work for some people in the short term, but in long term, you will fall down in your ass.
Mhm,
Steve
mhm.
Jobs didn't make it out like that. Founder of Amazon didn't make it out like that. It takes time. Probably before 2018, nobody knew anything about Amazon. It was not as popular as it is today. But it takes a lot of hard work, a lot of time, and they make it by actually creating the foundation, the structure, the business plan, the marketing plan, the surveys, the feedbacks. All of these are important. And then it's the same thing if you're starting a podcast as a business, you should implement all these things inside it as well.
So it take 2018. We just barely knew about Amazon, but it was a thought. Somebody was working on something long before 2018. I'm glad you brought that up because so many times we get caught up in, oh, I want to be like Joe Rogan. Oh, and now everybody and their brother is telling you how to make money as a podcaster. But I'm telling you, if you don't get her roadmap, 10 steps to start a business, step-by-step workbook on how to start and plan a successful business that can grow into $1 million company. Yeah, I read everything on your cover because that's important. We look at what other people are doing and we so want that microwave, give it to me fast thing. It's scary. And was so when you yourself, when you started the magazine, it was a thought, but how long did it take you to build out your business?
Oh my goodness. The thought for WomELLE started in 2014. And I didn't launch WomELLE until 2016. We're looking at 2 years later. That's when I launched the company itself. And then we added the magazine in 2017. And even with the magazine, if you look at the first issue of the magazine and you look at the newest issue, even September magazine of 2022, it's a huge difference between the two. It takes me a very long time to make it where we want it to look like, how I want it to look like, because you have to represent your company the proper way, and it takes a process. Yes, you do need to start somewhere to get somewhere, but try not to rush into it because it's a process that you need. It's a step you need to take to get where you want to be. And when you rush into it, you miss steps because you're rushing, you're in a hurry. It's just like when you are working out, you're lifting the weight, you're so fast you don't realize it that you're hurting your body. So it's the same thing for your business. When you're rushed, you can hurt your body in your business without even realizing that you are doing that. So it's the best to slow down, do step one and do it right. I mean, like, I'm not saying to be perfect because we are not perfect, but do it right and get the proper support that you need to actually get it done right. And then move to step two. And at least when you get where you need to get, you know that it's going to take more than just a hurricane to drop you down into your ass. It's going to take way more than that because your foundation is solid.
Yes, I love that. Step by step by step by step. Will you speak to us again about this thing? If we're as we are going step by step by step, sometimes we get a little bit nervous about not being secure income wise. Will you speak to that? Because I'm finding that's something that all of us experience, even at different levels. I have a neighbor who has a successful business, but now they're scaling fast and they're trying to pull money from everywhere so that they can just keep this momentum going and can, stay in the keep the wheel moving. And
Mhm.
when I thought, wow, you're there. And she said, girl, yeah, we robbing Peter to pay Paul, but we still in the game, But that's real talk. So will you talk about the fact, let people know that as we are building out our podcast, it is a business. The money is not always going to be there, but
You're right, Margot. The money now, for example, with WomELLE, for the first few years of WomELLE, I didn't pay myself. For the first 2 years of WomELLE, the money wasn't there for me to pay myself. And I was focusing a lot more also on making sure that my foundation, everything within WomELLE was strong enough so that when WomELLE get there, that it's going to be a solid business and then people can trust what I am doing.
Mhm.
And even that when women are starting to make money, the money that I was paying myself, I was investing it back into WomELLE again. So it takes a process. Like you're gonna hear that a lot. It takes about 5 years to see really a good income in a business. But it can even take longer than that because let's say for example you start a business while you have a full-time job. Perhaps you don't even have as much time to spend into the business because you work 8 hours a day. So which means that your business will slow down. You probably will not make that money as fast as you were expecting. So all I can say is that give the business time to grow. The money will come. So it's making sure that the services, the products, whatever you are selling, it's worth selling. It's worth buying so that you can build that trust. And also don't quit. And I think another issue also is, especially with women, I see that a lot. They show up today and you don't see them for 3, 4, 5 months from now, and then you see them again and you don't see them again. So that is a problem because you don't know that, but people are watching you. without you knowing. They are watching you on social media. They are following you. So when you are not posting, you're not doing certain things, then that's become an issue because you are gone. And then you come back again. So they're not gonna trust you. Well, she was gone for that long and then now she's back. So they don't know what's going on. So it's best to just stay. If you're really passionate about what you are doing, just stay. Just go with your guts, and the money will come as long as what you are providing it's worth selling or buying.
I love that. We could stay on that target all day long. It takes me into another subject, something we've spoken about in times past. And it's true for the business world, it's true for podcasting, it's true for magazine. If you're going to do something, don't ping pong shiny object your way through life. That messes up your credibility. Will you speak to that also, please?
I think the issue is that a lot of time we are in a lot of hurry. So we kind of like, we want to get there, we want to get there. So we look for every single little cut here and there. And then we don't actually really give value to anything we are doing because a lot of times we need the money too because we don't have a full-time job and we are relying on the business and the business needs to bring the money. So it's a lot of things that play into that, and then we just all over the place, and that create an issue where things are not quality done, they're not worth having. And that is an issue I see a lot. Just like people know, I work a lot with women, not with men. So when I mention women, it's because that's what I deal with. I don't deal with men, so I can't speak for them. But with women, I've seen that issue a lot, is where that we're in a hurry to do things. For example, I'll see another woman starting a magazine, and I'm like, what is that?
Yeah.
So you didn't even take the time to add the proper image or in a quality way, or have the content even a proper way, because you're in such hurry and you want to sell, you want to make the sale, you want to get to the next one. And it's, don't do that, because
Mhm.
it's your brand, it's your baby. You want to represent the proper way. I understand you might not have the money to be, I'm not saying to be like the top of magazine or the top of products, because you don't have the money, but the little that you can do, just make sure it represent the proper way. It looks nice, it's beautiful, and it's worth having. And then other people want to be a part of it. And don't let money make you pull yourself down and messed up your reputation as well. So, and also I think another thing when it comes to reputation is the fact that we overcharging for products and services that doesn't worth the money.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
it's like I met coaches that say I charge $10,000. I'm
Uh-huh.
like, really? For what? That's too much. Especially when you say that you are supporting startups. Not every startup has that type of money to pay you every single month. So don't overcharge. Keep your dignity. That's all I can say, Margot. Keep your dignity. Don't overcharge. Look at it where what's in the market, how they selling, how much it's the people they are offering it for now, and then look at also your skills, what you are bringing to the table. So don't say that today I'm going to be a business coach. You never start a business and you're charging $10,000. It's unfair, completely unfair. So your dignity, your value is important, and if you mess it up, then nobody else, even when you try to do something good, nobody else will follow you. That's just the
Wow.
way I see it.
That is valuable. If ladies and gentlemen, if you get nothing else from this conversation, I hope that you heard Naghilia, because there's a lot of that. We're a coach, we're this, we're that, and when you pull the hood up on the packaging, it's not legit. And to me, it's at epidemic proportions, because on the internet you can be anywhere. Even if with a workbook, you can be anybody. So you really have to take your time. I'm so glad that people get a chance to understand what you're all about, the extent of your information and your expertise. You're speaking of things, been there, done that. Not some, you have your MBA, but you have the textbook and you have the life knowledge of how to build out a podcast, how to build out a business. So let's move on over to your guest. Who is your most memorable guest?
Oh my goodness.
I know that's a hard one.
I think I have a few of them, but I
Mhm.
think out of my head, I will go with Jennifer Furlong. She is a very sweet person, I think. And then she's her knowledge. I mean, like where she's come from and what she's sharing with other women. I felt like it's valuable to people. And she's also stand for what she believes. She's not the type of person that you can just like pull down just like that. She stay behind what she believes, and then she just keep on supporting what she trusts that's the best thing. And what she does is she's a communication. She deals with people that have communication issues, especially on business. As women, we have that issue where we don't know how to communicate. We think we do, but we don't know. And that is a big issue if you want to grow your business. And that's exactly what she does. She helps you to be able to communicate not just with your team, but also with your clients and other people the proper way so you don't lose business.
That's valuable. Yeah, and seems like she's a very humble but knowledgeable person, I would imagine.
Exactly. Yes.
Mhm. Cool, cool. I want to swing it on back around to this red hot topic of pay to play or whatever people want to call it. It seems that we always get caught up on the verbiage of it. You know, it's like Democrat and Republican. You have this camp, you have that camp, and there's no coming in the middle. What do you say about that concerning pay to play or I don't know what else to call it. I'm just going to put it on out there. And we are looking at podcasting as a business. Where does that fit in?
Pay to play. Every time I hear people say that thing, and I'm like, does that even exist? It's not, don't look at it as a pay to play, okay? So you have a business. So how are you going to get your client? Well, you're gonna have a website, you have a storefront, you have the phone line. Good job. You have all these things, but they're not gonna just fly out of the sky into you. So you gotta go get them from somewhere, and that's come with advertising. I'm sorry to say that, but podcasting is media. Media is advertising. So which means you have to pay to get into it. You cannot expect a podcaster that spend money buying a good mic. Sometimes they have to buy new computers, a lot of softwares, spend a lot of time on cleaning, and you want to do it for free.
Yeah.
Why do you want it for free? You are coming into that podcast to advertising your business. So when people that are going to listen to that podcast probably going to buy your products, why do you feel that the podcaster don't deserve to get paid? So I wouldn't even call, let's put pay to play aside. Let's look at it in a business way. You have a business, you need a client, and you need to advertise in it. And to advertise, and you need money, and you need to pay to do that. So put podcast as a part of your plan of every year I need to be in 10 podcasts. It's going to cost me that amount of money, and I'm going to pay for it. And it's fair enough because the podcaster put a lot of work into this. It's not just a hobby, it's a business. And business deserves to make money. And pay to play, put it aside. It's a business.
Well, I tell you what, I'm in that camp. People, you pay when you're on terrestrial radio, you pay a mighty dollar. You have no guarantee that anybody's going to listen. You have no guarantee that it's going to motivate anyone to attend your summit, your workshop, whatever you're doing, listen to your podcast. When you advertise on TV, terrestrial radio, you have no guarantee. So why is it that we think that podcasters are a lower level of light? I don't think so. There are 2
No.
million podcasts out there, 500,000 that are current. So we know the stats. I'm glad you said that because I mean, podcasting is changing, the industry is changing, and people's mindset have to change with that. I okay, this leads me into one final question. I'm looking at the time, but I just have to ask you this. There are speakers who say, I would never pay to speak. But there are stages where, in my opinion, I would pay in a minute to speak because of who's in the audience, because there are people that you want to get a chance to know. And if you go ahead and you get on that stage, you get on that podcast, guess what? You have an opportunity to speak with that person who
Mm-hmm.
may be the door to your next big thing. What do you say to that?
Well, being a speaker, especially if you're new as a speaker, so you need to put your name out there. So it's good actually if you pay to get that experience. But also, like you said, if you're gonna be speaking on a stage with Michelle Obama, I'm pretty sure you're going to pay for it. I don't think anyone going to say no to that. They will pay. And I think that a lot of people also, they use that word because they want to get everything for free, especially when they look at someone else. They're like, well, I don't pay. I got this a lot. I don't pay to do this, but I can I can do it for you if I don't have to to pay you. Well, it's unfair because you will pay for something else. So I think that it's a bunch, if I may say that, Margot, it's a bunch of
Say it.
I don't want to say the word, but
Well,
it's just
uh-huh.
it's just a bunch of talk that really have no value behind it. Because if you really need to promote something, really need to get in front of certain people. You will have to pay to get there. People are not just going to approach you just because you feel like you are whatever you think you are. Because even celebrities themselves pay to get where they need to be. And they
Yes.
have money, and also they have the present online. Why do they have to pay to do certain things? But they still do. Why do Walmart have to pay for ads?
Yeah.
Why do McDonald's have to pay to have an ad on YouTube? Why?
Yeah.
We all know McDonald's, but they still doing it. There's a
Mm.
reason behind it why they are doing it. So either if you want to be a speaker, they charging for it, then yeah, that's the price. If you want to be there, you have to pay for it. And stop. I think one thing also, Michael, stop trying to bring your other people down, especially women.
Mhm.
We tend to do that a lot. When another woman reach
Mhm.
out to you, said, "Hey, this is my fee," they always turn around to say, "Well, I can do it to you for free. I'll do it for you for free, but I'm not paying for that." Stop doing that. Support another
Mhm.
woman, for God's sake.
Mhm. Mhm.
Just support.
Support. I totally, totally agree. Oh my goodness. I knew this was going to be good. I knew this was going to be good. Will you, in keeping with the time, will you tell us, give us your email address? I will definitely have it in the show notes, but I want people to know how they can become a part, how they can find you so that they can get the help that they need to build out their podcast as a business. It's as my mama said, you is or is you isn't. If you're all the way in, you need a firm foundation. And as you can see, Naghilia Desravines, MBA, knows her thing. So
Well, the first thing, sorry,
go,
Margot, go
no,
ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead. First
The
thing.
first thing, Margot, is that I want people to be clear. I cannot help you start a podcast. That is not my specialty. So if you need something like that, you got the girl right here, which is Margot, not me. Do not contact me for that. But if you do want to build a business with your podcast, that part I can help you with it. And to reach out, you can just in any social media, just search for WomELLE, WOMELLE. And then you can just reach out to WomELLE, and then we'll be more than happy to support you. Or you can also go to www.womelle.com, and just reach out. We'll be more than happy to support you. That's what we do. We support women, and we guide you to make sure that you don't end up in all of the scams that's on the internet, but also you don't spend all your money on for nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Spend it where you need to spend it, not where you don't need to spend it.
And keep I can tell everybody, keep your emotions out of everything, because you will spend money that you shouldn't spend, and when it's time to execute, pull the trigger on something, you don't have the money. I can.
Exactly. And not every opportunity is your opportunity. Sometimes you need to learn how to say thank you, but no. I say
Mhm.
that a lot. That's my best word.
I'm learning. I'm learning. I want everybody to pay attention to the spelling of WomELLE, WOMELLE. When you put that in the browser, it's going to take you exactly where you need to go. WOMELLE. And the ELLE is capitalized. So this has been marvelous. I'm glad that the weather held up and it didn't just bounce you off, because I thought, oh, any minute this might happen. But it's been good. It's really been good. Can I just ask one final question? I have one
Go
more
ahead.
minute left. What big door has opened up for WomELLE this far?
I think the biggest thing is be able to work with more women. I think for this year itself, we reached to over 70,000 women so far in the United States. So it's been very beautiful to see. Don't get me wrong, I can't make anyone happy in this world, but to be able to work with so many fabulous women and to see what they are doing, to share the stories, to help them, however, how we can help them, it's been a very big goal of us. And we're hoping that before the end, we'll be able to be in contact with at least 80,000 of women. And hopefully, and for the new year, we'll have a bigger plan and bigger things to support more women out there.
Yeah. Your magazine has a far-reaching, it's in depth. It has a reach that is crazy for a magazine that's so young. And it's all about women. It's all about women in business. And will you just speak to the fact, real quick, that you have writers who have been with contributing writers who have been with you from the very beginning? That
Yeah.
is amazing.
Yes, for example, we have Deborah Bishop. She's been writing with us for since the beginning of the magazine, and then never missed even one issue. And even when her both of her mother and her father passed away in the same year, and I was surprised she was still writing. And sometimes I don't know how she was holding up because that was a big thing that's happened. And after that, she lost her dog, which is what how we get connected with our little dogs, and then it's like 3 loss in 1 year, and then she continued. So I am. It was for me. I felt very appreciated, very like someone who go through so much in life and keep on going and keep on writing. That's a very big commitment, and for that I appreciate her. And I say thank you to you, all of you, that's always supporting WomELLE. Without you, I can't continue to grow WomELLE. So I do need every woman's support to continue that battle and then to continue supporting other women.
Well, I think what we see is that the fact that so many we can't do anything by ourselves. The bottom line is that when you are building out your podcast, you have to make sure that the foundation is firm. But if it's more than a hobby, you really have to make sure that you get with someone who can convert that, merge it into a business. Do it right the first time, because many things happen when you have a faulty foundation, and it's just not necessary all of the time, and the charlatans and the sharks are out there. But as you can see, I brought to you today someone who is compassionate, who has passion, and is very knowledgeable. So I want to say thank you, Naghilia Desravines, MBA. She is the founder of WomELLE, which is a company that, let me get my notes, make sure that I have this correct here, is a organization dedicated to mentoring business women. You have a magazine, podcast, and so many services that will help women get started and scale and maintain. So I want to thank you. We are going to break into a commercial break, and in a minute, then I'll come back. We have in the house Brother Bedford. So this has been one heck of a time. I'm over here looking for the sponsors because yeah, your girl got some sponsors for this event. So it's marvelous. Thanks for those who are listening in and the hearts. And thanks, Naghilia. Brother Bedford, we're going to get you on in a minute, but hang tight for the commercial break.
Meet What's Poppin' USA, the small business support network. My name is Helena, but most people call me Lena. I'm the HHIC, head hostess in charge. Don't know what that is? No worries. Just call me Miss Boss Lady. YBSN Network is actually our parent company. It's comprised of YBSN TV, a collaborative brand, the Mobile Mall, and my absolute favorite, What's Poppin' USA. Why do you think it's my favorite? Well, have you ever been on TikTok, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, and seen all of those really cool items that small businesses make? Well, that's the reason why. And guess what? You can catch me every single Tuesday on our YouTube channel. I am chatting it up with those amazing small businesses that are here in the US and beyond. Maybe in person is more your style. Come on out to one of our events. They're super cool. Coming soon, you can shop our mobile app at the Mobile Mall. And if YouTube or going out isn't your thing, you'll be able to kick your feet up soon and watch TV on our collaborative brand network. No matter how you decide to support small business, go ahead and scan the code to join the What's Poppin' movement and keep up with what's poppin' near you.
I am back, and many thanks to the sponsors. Really appreciate that. It was a last minute idea, and people just ran to the opportunity, and I say thank you. Here we are, still on the subject of podcasting while Black. I understand that Black folks want to hear from Black people. And today our subject is podcasting is a business. Now, we heard from Naghilia Desravines, MBA. I want to bring on a man who is very dear and near to my heart. When it was time for me to get back into podcasting, I lost my confidence, didn't have my voice, wasn't sure about who'd want to listen to me. I mean, just cry me a river. I was a mess. But I went to Prince George's County and I heard this gentleman, I watched this gentleman speak. And I came back home and I wanted to work with him, but I wasn't sure. You know how he vetted me. It wasn't like I was going to choose him. He vetted me. The rest is history. And I'm Christian. I'll tell anybody. He came at a mighty price, but God provided what I needed because I needed someone who would see me, who would hear me as a podcaster, who would see the podcaster that I could become and the one that I am today. So let me bring him on. I'm talking about the one and only Brother Bedford. Brother
Hey,
Bedford,
Margo.
you the man.
I'm the man sitting next to the woman. How are you, Margo?
I am good. I
Great.
tell you, these last couple of days, I've been like a little kid at Christmas. It's just crazy.
This is
awesome.
awesome.
You know, I'm in my element, but
indeed,
I'm gonna put my feet on the ground and I'm gonna ask you some questions because when we move into this thing of podcasting as a business, I want people to understand that you've been in business different kinds of ways for some time. So you are not a novice at all.
No, not at all.
And we start out the fact that you at once upon a time cleaned up. You were in the entertainment industry.
Mm-hmm.
You were flipping houses, those, as you say, those dirty, nasty houses. You
Mm-hmm.
moved into that. And then what happened? How is it that you got into conversations with millionaires? This audio project that you undertook. You
Yeah.
you went in and boom. Take us there, Brother Bedford.
Yeah, no, thank you, Margaret. First, I just want to say before I get started, congratulations to you. I'm happy and honored to be celebrating this day with you that you do every year. So this is truly an honor for me to have seen your growth and development, and to see you still pushing forward and doing all of the great things that you're doing. So again, I applaud you and thank you for having me. I have my her business, her voice, her conversation right here in front of me. So this is a project that we worked on together, that kind of marries what you're doing with the podcasting. And I just wanted to kind of say that because you're not a novice anymore either. I mean, you've been building out this platform to serve many people, women in particular, but again, brothers and sisters who have a voice to share through podcasting. You've been putting in the work. So I just want to applaud you and thank you for the invitation, Margot.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Um, you mentioned the real estate piece, and that's really how I got into this whole internet piece. One of the gurus that I was studying as it relates to real estate investing invited me to a conference in Orlando, Florida. And that conference had nothing to do with real estate. It was all around this industry that's now really taking a hold of not just America, but the entire world. It's this information marketing business where people are providing knowledge, experience, expertise, and packaging it into products and services and podcasting and webinars and all of this type of stuff. It looks different now than it did then 20 something years ago. But that's how I got started, that this guru invited me to this conference, and he mentioned how he made more money selling the how-to courses than he did investing in local real estate. Now, he was making a killing in investing in real estate, but that was local. But when you got into this space of the internet and information marketing, it became a global business, right? You can literally go global overnight just by having an internet connection and a domain name. And so that's how I got into it, started selling my knowledge online in small digital reports. I heard you and Naghilia mention Amazon earlier. That's how I started watching Amazon doing the ebooks. And so we were doing reports instead of loading them to Amazon as ebooks directly. We had them as PDF documents so that we can sell them faster and make more money from them. And one of the courses that I was studying from that real estate guru, that I purchased the license to that event, came back. It was about this industry, and it was all about internet marketing was the piece that stood out for me. The whole selling information stood out, but at that time, the internet was just beginning. We still had dial-up. PayPal wasn't out. We just mentioned Amazon. There was no YouTube. There was no Facebook. And so there was a different way of doing it. However, it intrigued me. And I started selling my information online, but I was reading a book called Conversations with Millionaires. That book had only one Black person in it, and that was Wallace Amos from Famous Amos Cookies. He was the only Black person in it. And that's when the idea hit me, to now answer your question directly, Margot. That's when the inspiration hit me. I said, man, wouldn't it be nice if someone interviewed our millionaires, Black millionaires, and then put them into an ebook? Because again, that was a format that we were doing. And that's how it started. And I called Dr. Frazier, who was my very first interview, Dr. George C. Frazier, one of our iconic figures in the business space, wrote Success Runs in Our Race. Dr. Dennis Kimbrough, another one of our iconic figures, Les Brown. So I started calling these individuals to get the interviews, had those interviews in an audio format, had them transcribed. And that transcription became the ebook known as Conversations with Black Millionaires, and uploaded that online. And as you said, the rest is history. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that, but that's how I got involved in interviewing Black millionaires.
That's amazing. Where did you get the because I mean, you became a podcaster. Where did you get the nerve to even call Dr. Frazier? I mean, Les Brown. How did you get the nerve? Because so many people say, I can't do that. Well, they won't even talk to me. How can I get past the gatekeeper?
Yeah.
Because in those days, you didn't have LinkedIn. You
Yeah.
had to get past the gatekeeper. Tell us
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, well, it's so interesting, Margot, because as you mentioned, podcasting really wasn't a feature then. Those interviews, even though I recorded them audio, they weren't necessarily for the podcast initially. That's what makes this story so interesting. Is that so? First, let me ask you a question directly. You said, "How did I get the courage?" I actually just followed instructions. Again, that course told me that if you inquired and asked experts for interviews, that they would do it. And of course, now you're saying what's the logic behind that? Here's the flip side. I heard you and Naghilia talking earlier. Um, People who have businesses, who are selling books, who are selling conferences, who are selling home study courses, as Dr. Frazier was, as Les Brown was, as Dr. Dennis Kimbrough was, they wanted an audience so that they can continue to sell. And so, of course, they would give the interview to sell their course. Now, here's the interesting thing. This internet thing was new. I was a no name. So at the very beginning, when I called down to Dr. Frazier's office, his assistant, she shot me down. I mean, terribly. She shot me down real bad. It kind of destroyed my ego, the confidence, as you just pointed to. But I did what the course asked, and I said, well, I'll leave my name and number. And the reason she turned me down, because I wasn't CNN, because I wasn't one of the notable media outlets that probably Dr. Frazier was known for being on. And so she didn't think this knucklehead from Detroit had an audience or anything to offer Dr. Frazier. But again, he knew different. He knew that he needed a different audience, and to be a part of me just promoting whatever it was that he was doing, he was more than happy to give me the interview. And so the confidence came, Marco, by just following instructions. And just as you begin to go over those little benchmarks, over those little hurdles, because again, Dr. Frazier led to Dr. Kimbrough. Then once I did Dr. Kimbrough, I was like, okay, now I'm getting a little confident. Dr. Kimbrough led to Les Brown, and then they led to Kathy Hughes, and then Michael V. Roberts, and Dr. Randall Pinkin. And so I kept going and going and going, but it was the very first one that began to help me with the confidence to get going with it.
That's what I'm talking about. I heard you say 2 or 3 times, following the instructions.
Yeah.
I'm going to write that down. We're going to circle back to that, because
Yeah.
that's going to tie you to something else. We always talk about, okay, so you have the interviews. They are in book form. People are coming out of the woodwork. They want to speak with you. You're on in the newspaper, you're on radio, you are smoking hot. So what you said that you were going to be able to give Dr. Kimbrough, Dr. Frazier, Kathy Hughes, you were able to give them that to them, because you got all this shine. You got shine. They got shine. It was like, man.
Yeah.
So what can people take from that as far as monetization? Because everybody wants to get into podcasting, and it's their thought. They're after a few episodes, okay, how do I make money on this? Do they follow through the media path? And do you find that podcasting is long tail? What do you say to that?
Yeah, it's funny. You mentioned it was almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy in terms of giving them what they wanted. Because as I got those interviews and we had them transcribed, I had no idea that it would go beyond, just making a few bucks. Because again, following the formula that I was taught, all I was trying to do was create a $29 or $39 ebook of Black millionaires, right? But then I wrote a press release, and we sent that press release out where it said budding entrepreneur seeks millionaire advice and gets it. That was the headline of that press release, and that press release went out. And so from that press release, that's when all of the calls started coming for me to say, man, how did you get these millionaires to tell you what it is? And then what is it that they told you, right? So, and that was the best thing about that particular product, is that I didn't have to come up with any new knowledge. They would just ask me, what did Dr. Frazier teach you? And then I can just tell them a part of what he said in the interviews. And then what did Les Brown say to you? And then what did Kathy Hughes say to you? So I was just answering the questions with the information that I had received from the ebooks. And then, of course, now leveraging that by being on Warren Valentine, XM Satellite Radio was hot at that time. So I was on all of those financial shows, the Black financial shows, Blog Talk Radio. So everybody was getting me on their shows to talk about what these millionaires shared with me. And then at the end of every interview, they would simply ask, well, how do people get this book? And then that's when I would say, well, all they got to do is go to conversationswithblackmillionaires.com and they can download the book. And so that's how the monetization took place, right? I got on those shows for free because I had a story. I had something that was interesting to the audience. That's the one thing that I would say about if you're trying to get into media that a lot of people miss, is that you have to give the radio station, the television station, the podcasters, whoever is the media, you have to give their audience a story. They're not going to they didn't interview me to sell my book, my ebook. They interviewed me because I was a story of interviewing Black millionaires, sought advice, and got it. And of course, I was able to leverage at that time some of the biggest and brightest and best well-known Black millionaires. And so those names resonated with people. So I gave them a story which allowed them to put me on their platforms, which allowed me to monetize it on the back end, because tens of thousands of people would go to Conversation with Black Millionaires and download that ebook for, at one time it was $29. Then we raised it to $39. Then it was $49. And then I started learning how to create back end products from that. But real quick, just because I know we're talking about podcasting, those interviews were just done to be transcribed, but then now podcasting is growing along with this industry. And so now those very same interviews became the very first episodes in my podcast. And so now my podcast of Conversation with Black Millionaires, after we've kind of exhausted selling the ebook, now I'm getting people going to download, literally hundreds of thousands and millions of people going to download these interviews. And now I'm getting the downloads, which gives an audience to future people to be interviewed. So now all of the future interviews after that, now the language changed. And I do want to say this because I think this is going to help you and others, I believe, with this thing about podcasting, is that the language changed to where now, instead of me saying, I want to interview you for this ebook that I have, or for this book that I have, I want to interview you for my show, which is what my podcast was. And I think that is a sticking point for a lot of people. It's the language. Podcasting history, for those who don't know, clearly there was broadcast radio, terrestrial radio. You mentioned that earlier. I heard you mention that. But Steve Jobs, man, the genius of Steve Jobs, really turning the music industry on its ear. By, instead of selling the albums and the CDs, created a way for people to listen to music and purchase it for just 99 cents for just a single song. And that he did that through his device called an iPod, right? And so the iPod was very famous. And again, Steve Jobs, evolving that business, saw the value in that and started saying, well, maybe we can start having broadcasts directly through the iPod. And so of course, he used his own name. So the iPod became the podcast, but it's really just broadcasting through the iPod. Now, here it is. The iPod is gone, but the language of podcasting is still here, which simply means that you're just broadcasting your own show. And I think if people just realize that you're starting your own show, you're starting your own program, and not get caught up on the language of podcasting where it seems so, what is this mysterious, scary thing called podcast? It just simply means that now Steve Jobs, along with the other people that pioneered the technology space on the internet has developed a way for each of us to have our own broadcast studio. We're doing it right now. We're broadcasting right now through a newer technology called StreamYard that wasn't around even back then. But that's how technology keeps evolving and keeps growing. But if a person views their show or views this, what we're doing, as a show instead of this mysterious thing called pie, I think that would clear up a lot as to how do I monetize my show? How do I get guests for my show? What am I doing with my show? What are the topics? What are the things? Building my audience for my show. Then you'll look at the different ways to kind of monetize. And I think Naghilia touched on it earlier. There's really only a few ways to do it. Once you got a show, you can only get money from either advertising. You all spoke about advertising earlier, and you just showed in the middle of the interview how you have sponsors, right? Those are the two main ways that you monetize the show. But you combine that with what we've learned from the internet over the years, and now you understand that you can also monetize it by selling your own products and services on the back end, or somebody else's products and services, and you're getting a piece of that. And that's called affiliate, right? So you can have someone on the show, and now you can become an affiliate. And then if they go to their website and purchase, you can get a percentage of that. Or you can have your own show. And then after you've built up your audience, you can say, if you really like this and you'd like to purchase my book, just go to herbusinesshervoice.com. And that's how you monetize it, through your own products and services, through sponsorships and advertising. But most of us never really get to the sponsorship and advertising because we forgot that we're building a show. And the show has to, as I started earlier, the reason people invited me on their show is because I gave them a story for their audience. So when I was on Warren Ballantyne's show and some of those other shows, they would advertise or market, tune in tomorrow morning where we have this brother Bedford on the show talking about how he got business advice from Black millionaires. So now people tuned in to hear. And I think that's what is missing from a lot of us as podcasters. We forget that we got to get people to tune in. And then once we have an audience tuning in, now we can get advertisers and sponsors, because now they'll know the demographics and the psychographics of all of the different people that we're getting tuning in. So I'm hoping, I know that's kind of a long-winded answer for you, but I kind of wanted to marry what I've done and what I'm doing to kind of show you how it manifested in monetization. Even though I didn't know all of this stuff then, I was just doing it. But now that I have the experience, now I can share it and tell you and others how you have to think about this thing if you're going to do it.
But see, Brother Bedford, that's what I love about you. You are a teacher, and I mean, that was college textbook, what you just gave. You know how many people how long it would take a person to come to that reality and that realization? Just the information, just language. Let's change the language. When we change the language, it changes our mindset.
Yeah.
So now this takes me over to Mastermind, because you are, and let me make sure, you're the founder of the world's #1 training network and mastermind platform for Black entrepreneurs and business owners. We're talking about the Masters of Business. So before we dig into that, will you just let us know what is a mastermind? Because I don't think a lot of people really know. I know I didn't really understand.
Yeah. Another one of those phenomenons that I'm on a mission to demystify, because it came, or it's the term. First, let me say this: there's not a millionaire or billionaire on the planet that does not, and I would even just say anyone that has achieved any level of success. But since we're talking about business, we'll use the numbers to kind of identify it. But there's not a millionaire or billionaire who has not used the principle of masterminding to become successful. It's just a principle that they've all embraced and understand that this is the way to become successful. It's a universal principle. Now, it's famous from, or it became known through Napoleon Hill's work, Think and Grow Rich, a Black Choice. And he tells you this is the second principle in all of the principles that he shared in the book. This is the one that he highlighted as a principle of action. A lot of other principles are like when you start talking about the power of thought and all of those different things, that's like principles of belief. You believe these things. This is your mindset. But in terms of a principle of action, something that you have to begin to do to become successful, that's what masterminding is. This was the principle that activated all of the other principles of success or laws of success. And so a mastermind is simply what you and I are doing right now. We are masterminding. It's where one mind comes together with another mind, and then these two minds invite into the equation a third mind or a third energy that produces new ideas, new concepts, and it's spurred by conversation and question. That's the thing that most people miss, is that the core of the mastermind. So right now we're doing the interview, but if you and I were just talking and you're asking me some questions, and if we were probing like some challenges or issues, we would probably be producing bigger and better ideas that you and I can share. I think we've kind of done that in this process, because even Napoleon Hill said his interviews, which most people don't know, that Think and Grow Rich, those principles came out of his interviews of over 500 of the most successful industrialists and business people of that time. And he literally said that his work and his success was the result of his masterminding doing these interviews. So literally what you and I are doing right now, having conversation, you asking question, me sharing ideas, produces new thoughts. And as you kind of bore witness, right? You said that the way that you explain that, Brother Bedford, that helped a lot of people. You change the language. So think about that. For those who will watch this, they'll get a new idea about podcasting, a new perspective, a way that they can approach it and grow and develop. And it's all because you and I are engaged in this. You know, we're not calling it a mastermind, but this is kind of the process. We're two. Now, again, this is attributed to Napoleon Hill, but it's actually biblical. Remember, we're two or more are gathered. So here it is, you and me. I'm looking at the screen. So we're two or more are gathered in my name. There I am in the midst of you, right? So now two of us have come together, and we're allowing another energy, another intelligence, another mind to come in, and it helps to share and disseminate this information. It's also in other scriptures as well, but I think that's sufficient to help people.
That takes it right to the core of it, so that we understand, because sometimes we get the language tangles us up, and we don't do anything because I don't understand, and then we get into excuse mode. So I guess you all understand how powerful this gent is. We started out with Naghilia. She's a powerhouse, and here we are with Brother Bedford.
Oh,
Brother
she
Bedford,
is a dynamo. I love Naghilia. She's a dynamo.
She is no joke. I'm looking at the time. I'm just wondering, will you just take us into, because I know the power of being part of a mastermind. Will you just take a moment to take us inside what it feels like? What does it feel like, but what is it like to actually enter a mastermind? Because people sometimes think that it's just one person chatting it up, one person talking it up. When there's more than one person, we understand the power of two people together. But when you get a group together, what is that dynamic like? And how does that help one build out their podcast?
Yeah, we kind of alluded to it earlier. Again, it's really what some would say is that secret that the wealthy do, because you mentioned like many of us don't understand it. We can't really wrap our minds around it. We don't get it. And it's because we haven't been exposed. So that's why it's, for most people, these are the secrets. But again, once you begin to explore the world of entrepreneurship and business, even when I went to that thing in Orlando, Florida, right, that was a part of a mastermind, right? So you have to start seeing that this is how people acquire knowledge and information and build relationships. So again, there's this, I don't want to separate and say, but there's this group of people who are extremely successful who understand this and do this naturally and organically, where for us, it's like a new phenomenon. I've never heard of this stuff before. And that's why you and I are doing what we do. We're on a mission to kind of demystify these universal principles and concepts that should be taught to us in kindergarten and first grade, but it's not. And it's not until we start investing in ourselves and get out in the marketplace that we say, oh, wow. You mean, so this is how it's done. And so you're right. It's a mystery to a lot of us. We just don't get it. However, it's a principle that I believe is the new, as old as it is. This is literally a million-year-old concept, but it's so new to us. So what was, I think the Bible says, what was at the beginning shall be in the end. What so it was once old, now it's new again. I think this is the way to kind of help people to understand podcasting and all of these dynamics that we're talking about today, even advertising and marketing and overcoming challenges and difficulties. That's what the group produces, Margot, to answer your question directly. When you say, what is it like? It's where a person is normally functioning in a silo, especially as entrepreneurs and business owners, functioning in a silo, trying to figure these things out all by themselves. And then now the opportunity comes to where now you can sit in a group or in a circle of 4, 5, 8, 10, 12 other brothers and sisters of varying degrees of knowledge and experience. And now whatever challenges are plaguing you, whatever issues are plaguing you, to now be able to go and sit on a hot seat, not necessarily ask for a strategy. I think you talked about this earlier. Everybody is talking strategy, right? Because you can Google just about, it's not just about, you can Google everything you want to know, but you can't Google experience.
No.
You can't Google wisdom, right? You can't Google vantage point, right? And you get that by being in a group of people, sitting down with me and Margot and talking about, okay, Margot, how did you get started with your podcast and what was the hang up for you? Okay, well, and just as you asked me, well, Brother Bedford, how did you get started? How did you garner the courage to reach out to million? And what did you say, right? What did you write? So a person coming in and getting that type of information in a group setting, saying, well, I don't know how to get expert interviews. And now they're sitting in the room with me and you, and we've done hundreds of expert interviews. Now that person gets a different perspective. They get our experience. They'll get me saying, don't do that. You might want to do it this way, because if you do it this way, they may say no, right? So that's the beauty of being in a group of people. Now, to your last point, the difference between that and a coaching group, and that's where a lot of people get in, and that's what you really have today when you see a lot of people talking about they have mastermind groups and things like that. They're really high ticket coaching groups, right? It's a way to disguise a coaching program. But in a true mastermind, it's not about coaching. Is there some coaching going on? Yes. Is there maybe somebody is a central figure who gives information and from a different perspective, such as like probably my mastermind groups? But I have to be conscious that I'm not coaching individuals. I'm there to facilitate the conversations and the experiences that go on. So the difference between a coaching group is that there's one person that people are looking to as being the master and teaching them something. Whereas in a mastermind group, you have the collective knowledge, wisdom, and experience of everyone coming together to give you suggestions and opinions on how you should move forward instead of someone coaching you directly on it.
I tell you, the experience is magical and
Yeah.
it is transforming. It
Yeah.
really is. I mean, if a person, when they're listening, if they didn't know or understand or haven't been a part of a mastermind, is the mob open, or how do people move forward? Because as a Black person, this is something that we can't sleep on. We can't keep pushing to the side, and we can't keep operating under this quasi coaching, mentoring thing that's not really getting us anywhere,
Yeah.
So I won't
Yeah.
get on that soapbox. I just hate the charlatans. I really do, Brother Bedford.
Yeah.
I hate the charlatans. They are not doing us as a group of people any good at all. They're taking money. They are not equipped to take us to the promised land,
Yeah.
and it's a shame.
Yeah.
So today I am very, very happy that yourself and Naghilia, I will refer people to you all any day. And
Thank
that's what has to happen. We have to know who's legit and who's not legit.
you.
Let's
Yeah.
just put it on out there. So
Yeah.
now today, if you're talking about podcasting, I can teach you how to podcast, but Naghilia and Brother Bedford can turn that podcast into a stone cold business.
Right.
That's the real deal. That's
Right.
the purpose before today. Enough of this going back and forth, and we're tripping over dollars. We don't want to invest in ourselves, and we're wasting time.
Yeah.
The thing that report that came out in 2021 was it measured Black people, how we listen to podcasts, how we participate with podcasts. Black folks want to hear from Black folks.
Mm-hmm.
Period, point blank, as my nephew says. So if we're not podcasting, if we're not showing up so that our voices are there, if we're not showing up to be able to train people so that they can be strong and survive things that are coming, then how will we exist as a people and be strong entrepreneurs? How will we tell the stories? How will we present the way we can and should? I'm
Mm-hmm.
on a soapbox. I'm getting off of it, but I just feel it. I am so sick of the charlatans, and I am so happy that you are here today. So tell people about the mob, how they can be a part of it. Maybe somebody wants to build out a mastermind, really be trained so that they have a true mastermind.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they can go to the Masters of Business Network and Mastermind.com, and they'll see it there, but you still have to apply to get in, right? Because again, one of the key energizers of a mastermind group is having the right people. It's just like what you mentioned, like charlatans and things like that. It's the wrong people are just the wrong people, whether they're in mastermind groups, coaching groups, consultants. So you want to surround yourself with the right people. And so what we do is to try to make sure that we have the right people in the group, because it is so intimate, because this mastermind concept is different. There's a lot of vulnerability there, a lot of transparency there, a lot of confidentiality there, right? So you have to have the right people in the group. So a person can go to the Masters of Business Network and Mastermind.com to kind of see, just the framework. You won't see a lot of sales material there. I've learned to it's not even about selling you. It's about if it's right for you, it's right for you. The other way is just go to brobedford.com and just get on the email list. And then you can kind of experience me to see if I'm even the right person to because there are literally thousands of brothers and sisters who are doing this work who may be a better fit for you. And to speak to your last point, and I know we're probably running short on time, but by the barrier of entry being lowered with the internet, that's kind of what has exposed us to a lot of the people who I wouldn't necessarily call them charlatans. I think what had happened is that people who had an opportunity to do business on this level, where it's almost free, they don't have to have the years of experience, the years of putting in the time to learn, to grow, to develop their skills. I mean, literally, a person can go and get a domain right now, and in 5 minutes, say I'm a coach, right? So I don't necessarily think that person is deliberately being. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some who are deliberately trying to swindle people out of money. But when the barrier of entry, and this is really for anything, this is why what you were talking about earlier with Naghilia, I believe is valuable on one level, but it's also valuable on another level, is that when you start hanging around the free zone, and the low ticket zone, that's where you are. That's why I call it, it's an investment. It's not a cost. Nobody wants to pay a price. That signifies pain, right? Or what is it going to cost me? But if a person is saying, what am I investing? Then the premise of an investment is that you're planting something and you're looking for a rate of return, an ROI. Right. And so when a person is not trying to invest anything, then that means that they're not really serious about a rate of return. They're looking for what we call a quick hit, or back in Detroit, we would say they're trying to hit a lick. You're trying to hit a lick, get something for free. And unfortunately, a lot of us have been raised on that lottery mentality. If I can just hit it one good time, I'll be straight for life. And we're not willing to invest in ourselves, willing to put in the time, the willingness to become the masters of our craft, right? To develop ourselves. And so that's what I believe we have, Margot, with the barrier of entry being so low on the internet, is that just anybody can do it. However, I don't blame them. That's why the onus always goes back to the person who says they want to become an entrepreneur, who says they want to become a business owner. Now you have to do your homework. Yeah. You have to so you can't be looking for the shiny object syndrome. You have to say, how do I vet the people that's going to take me to the next level? How do I know that she can help me? How do I know that he can help me without asking a question, without paying time and attention to that person, right? That would be crazy for someone to say, Margot, how can you help me with my podcast? And then they never want to listen to your podcast. All they got to do is watch you, listen to you, look at how you've grown and developed. And then they'll say, man, I love what she's done. And then it's not a matter of what can she do for me. It's a matter of, man, can I invest so that Margot can help me so that I can be my best version of myself instead of Margot just giving me something, right? And I think that's a challenge for us, but I think we are getting to the point where we're going to get through that.
I believe that. I'm glad that you brought that up. And I'm always hearing you say it's investment, not cost. Mm-hmm. Once again, it gets back to that language. Yeah. Language determines how we think, how we interpret things. We could go on and on. I don't know. Yeah. You are just, oh my goodness, you are just amazing. I will make sure that, the links to how people can get in contact with you are available. I want to thank you so very, very much.
I'm honored, Margot. Thank you. And again, I would say for the people, they really should connect with you, because the best way to connect with me is to connect with you. I think that's one of the missing elements. Yeah. Even when we have people who are coming on the shows like this, and you and I, one of the reasons I wasn't ready, because I don't have a current podcast right now. And so to be featured or to do something in WomELLE, I am, but at the current time, it wouldn't be right because I'm so focused on masterminding and the way that we're getting people in. So I don't have a podcast. I do have some ideas that we're working on and developing. But that's because of the relationships that I've built through those conversations with Black millionaires and all the way up until now. And I think it would be a disservice for people to come to this program and watch you and then try to leapfrog Margot. I think the best way to get in contact with me and Naghilia, the best way, and I'm not saying it's the only way, but the best way would be, how can I get closer to Margot? How can I learn from Margot? What type of relationship can I, so that Margot can walk me through the door? And I think so many of us run away from the relationship so quick. We're looking for hacks. We're looking to leapfrog. And there really isn't a way, a quick way to do that. So I would say for people who are truly and genuinely interested in learning about having their own show, learning how to do it right, learning how to do it correctly, is to see you and then let you determine through great counsel and advice, maybe now you're ready for WomELLE. Let me get you ready for WomELLE. Or let me get you ready to kind of talk to Brother Bedford about masterminding or something like that. But until then, they wouldn't know that until they talk to you. And so I would say that's the best advice that I can give. And I think that's a principle that we as Black people have to begin to fall more in love with. I never just point someone to Dr. Frazier, just go there, right? It's a matter of, you should come to the conference. Matter of fact, sit with me. Maybe I can introduce, just same way I've done you, Margot. I'll introduce you to Dr. Frazier. And I'll ask you at the conference, Margot, did you take your picture with Dr. Frazier? That's how you got to get to know him. So now you got the picture. Now you build a relationship. Now you can have deeper conversation. You can have more lucrative conversations, right? Because of the relationship is being established. So those are my parting words that I would say as relates to your podcasting as a business. Before it becomes the business, you definitely have to have some of the earlier things in place that we talked about today. And you really can't leapfrog that. You got to go through Margot. You got to ask her the question to kind of make sure that you're on the right path. And I think that's the best way to do it. It's not the only way, but that's the best way.
Wow. I tell you, sage advice. It only comes from been there, done that. What can I say? You are phenomenal,
No, thank you, Margot. Thank you.
man. Well, I'm going to cut to commercial, Brother Bedford. I will speak with you later, and thank you, audience. Hang on, we're going to cut to commercial, and when I come back, we'll talk a little bit about what's coming up for tomorrow. Okay, hang on, everybody. Well, what can I say? What a day indeed. I'm almost speechless. I brought on two people who are very near and dear to me. I've studied with both of them. I still study with both of them. What I want you to take away is the fact that podcasting is a business. It's long tail, and it doesn't happen overnight. The Joel Rogans of this world, they are a anomaly. But you can find your place, you can find your voice, find your place, and yeah, you can find your chips, as we used to say. But that's the chips is just part of it. You come on so that you can impact others and help others grow. Each year, I do this event because I love podcasting. I understand the power of it. I found my voice. Brother Bedford was very modest. I was a broken individual when I came to him. I'd gone to study podcasting in Hollywood, California. When I was doing my terrestrial, when I was doing my day job, I would do podcasting off and on. But at the end of the day, something terrible happened, and I had to come back to all of that. I wondered whether or not I'd even be able to come back to all of it. But Brother Bedford saw in me the possibility, and he was patient. And in those days, we would do the call up interviews, and I would do all the production, and he'd just be there listening in and do the help, the post production of the calls. Excuse me. And the rest is history. Slowly but surely, I got my confidence back, and I wrote the book, Her Business, Her Voice, Her Reinvention. Because I was, what I don't forget to tell people is that I did all this. I started all this at age 61. At age 61. And here I am today. I am 68 years old. Those commercials that you watched, I put those commercials together because I love podcasting and the possibilities and all the attachments that come with it. Savvy businesswoman, I'm moving that way because Naghilia, Brother Bedford, trial and error. Give it a try. If it doesn't work, then you scrape it and you go to something next. Go to the next. This is the biggest production that I've put out on my own for this celebration of podcasters. I'm very proud of it. So I thank you for listening. I thank you for the replays. I definitely thank you, Naghilia Desravines and Brother Bedford. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Tomorrow, and I'm going to close out with this overlay tomorrow. You definitely don't want to miss. I am bringing Dr. Barrett Matthews. This man knows media. Oh, yes. Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. Dr. Barrett Matthews and the information diva, Deborah Thorne. So it's all about media, marketing, and entrepreneurship. We're doing it tomorrow, same time, same location, 10 o'clock a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So let me close out with this overlay. Let me see whether I can get this overlay in place. Make sure I have the right one. And I will see you tomorrow. Remember, on Friday, we're going to have a special guest, Finch. Yes. Oh my God. I tell you what, God has shined upon me as far as these guests. Finch is going to be here on the 30th on Friday, and he's going to tell us about moving from terrestrial radio, being a personality on terrestrial radio, in terrestrial radio, and moving over to be an award-winning, influential podcaster. So the best is yet to come. The best has come, and there's more to come. So let's start ramble. I'm going to see you tomorrow, okay? Tomorrow, you do not want to miss. And Friday, we are replaying everything, all right? See you tomorrow.